significant of its kind in the United States, and this is a case that goes after illegal towing charges imposed upon vulnerable victims and also upon insurance companies on what was very possibly one of the lowest days of these people's lives, the day when they had a serious automobile accident. Ultimately, this is a story about greed. It is a story about a towing company known as Hooked Inc., might as well have been known as Hooked on Greed Inc. We have with us here today some of the people who've done such an amazing job with this investigation, and no, I can't take any credit for it. They did it. We have Assistant District Attorney Dawn Holtz, who is the supervisor of our Economic and Cybercrime Unit. We also have Kim Essick, who is the Assistant Supervisor of the same unit. We have with us today Deputy Commissioner Dennis Wilson, and we have Lieutenant Marty Bernard standing up at the podium, as well as several other people in this room who have done an amazing job with a complex and fascinating investigation. This is a case that involves millions of dollars. I'd like to offer a special thank you to County Detective Sergeant Monet Hunter, who is also part of the Economic and Cybercrimes Unit and did a great job. Detectives DeFrancesco and Logan, they have to be camera shy today so they can keep doing the good work that they do every day, but I want to send out a special thank you to them for their hard work. I'd like to start by talking about the charges we have brought against Hooked Inc. That is the name of the towing company, and its co-owners Dwight Williams and Joseph Moreno. And then I'll talk about the pervasive problem that we have with rogue towing companies like Hooked Inc. Today, after a comprehensive investigation, the Philadelphia District Attorney's Office announces criminal charges against Hooked Inc. and its co-owners Dwight Williams and Joseph Moreno. They have been charged with corrupt organization, a first-degree felony, deceptive or fraudulent business practices, a third-degree felony, 4 counts of insurance fraud, a third-degree felony, 4 counts of theft by deception, a third-degree felony, and 2 counts of conspiracy. One is a first-degree felony and one a third-degree felony for illegal towing practices. I want to thank Dawn Holtz in particular for leading this investigation with Detective DeFrancesco of the Insurance Fraud Unit and Detective Logan of the Philadelphia Police Department's Major Crimes Unit, who played such critical roles here. It's important to note that Mr. Williams and Mr. Moreno are presumed innocent until proven guilty, and obviously they have the right to due process in our legal system like anyone else. They have both voluntarily turned themselves in and were arrested on March the 19th. Their next status hearing will be the 29th of April. Hooked Inc., Dwight Williams, and Joseph Moreno took advantage of dozens of vulnerable drivers who, in moments of confusion, were forced to open their wallets so they could line the defendant's pockets. I hope today's announcement sends a clear message to area towing operations to follow the law, because these scams have no place in our city. They tear down our city and will not be tolerated. I'd also like to thank the investigating grand jury for their service and Special Agent Jack Quinn from the National Insurance Crime Bureau, who is with us today. In conjunction with the Philadelphia Police Department's Major Crimes Unit, we began by investigating high tow bill complaint calls that were coming into the office. The industry standard for pricing of a tow should be between $200 and $400. But these calls were complaints about prices that range from $1,000 to $2,500 for towing. These were calls that came into our office by the insurance companies doing business with Hooked Inc. and other towing companies in the city. On a side note, I greatly appreciate the support and coordination that we continue to receive from insurance companies, the National Insurance Crime Bureau, the Insurance Fraud Prevention Authority, and our investigative and industry partners across the Commonwealth, because without their support, we would not have achieved this remarkable prosecution today. In the city of Philadelphia, and this is how it's supposed to work, towing companies have an agreed upon rotation for who will receive the next towing job, giving each company an equal opportunity to work. Please excuse my voice, we got a little cold. Much in the same way that if you leave the Philadelphia airport and you take a cab, you know what the price is. That's how it's supposed to work with towing. The program is also designed to prevent wreck chasing and price gouging. Once at an accident scene, responding police officers typically notify the next tow truck on the rotation, on the list by police radio, and then once that tow truck is at the scene, the drivers are required to fill out a tow slip in its entirety, have the customer sign the slip, and clearly list their charges. Solicitation by any towing company is prohibited, but this is not the way Hooked Inc., Williams, and Marino operated. They concocted a scheme to deceive many victims, circumvent the city's rotational towing program, and to commit insurance fraud. Here are just two examples of how they operated. Excuse me. In one victim's case, a victim was involved in a car accident in the Roxborough section of town and did not call for a tow. While in the ambulance, a tow operator approached this woman driver and said that she had to sign the tow slip to remove the car from the road. This is a woman in the back of an ambulance right after an accident. Despite there not being charges listed on the tow slip and feeling pressured, her husband signed the form because the tower said that insurance would pay for the towing charges. Hooked Inc. then billed Allstate Insurance $1,221.25 for 1 day of storage, $300 for the tow, $11.25 per mile, an $80 administration fee, $350 of unspecified labor, $175 for a winch. Maybe they buy a new one every time, I don't know, and $45 a day for storage plus 22.5% tax. $1,221.25 for towing a car in an accident that happened in Roxborough. Detectives saw that the tow was logged as a rotational tow, meaning subject to the price limit, but Hooked charged illegal wreck-chasing rates. Officers met with Hook Incorporated's owner Dwight Williams and Joseph Marino. Williams admitted to towing the vehicle and asked to meet with the officers outside. When they did, Williams told the officers that, quote, he could adjust the fees. Can we just forget about this one? Unquote. Detectives said no, of course, and seized the victim's car. Another example of Williams and Moreno's scheme can be understood when they arrived at the scene of an accident where a rental car was driven into a ravine in northeast Philadelphia. The police and AAA arrived but could not remove the car. When a tow truck arrived with two operators, they told the driver that they worked for Enterprise Rent-A-Car and would tow the car to the Warminster location where the victim had rented the car. The woman driver's daughter was not allowed to remove their belongings from the vehicle. One of the operators was overheard saying, quote, get her to sign the paper, unquote, and she was pressured to sign the form. She was only given a business card with a phone number on it to claim her car and belongings. And when she went to Enterprise the next day, she learned that the car never arrived, and she was responsible for finding the car. With help from the police department's auto theft unit, she located the vehicle at Hooked Inc. The bill was $2,060 this time, and the tow slip had no charges on it except, quote, bill to insurance, unquote. Hooked Inc. charged $1,200 for the tow, $250 for the yard fee, whatever that is, $250 administrative fee, $60 a day for storage at a place they hadn't even identified for anyone to find, and Hooked Inc. wanted cash only for the vehicle, which is a recurring theme in these cases. Cash, 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 and not a whole lot of documentation for reasons I'm sure are not hard to figure out. These are just two of dozens of examples of Williams and Moreno's avoidance of the rotational towing agreement, illegal activities, and high-pressure tactics used on people who have just experienced an accident, often have experienced physical injury, may very well be in the process of transport to a hospital, sometimes don't have insurance, require that vehicle even to be able to get to work in many circumstances. Frankly, it's despicable. I'd now like to introduce Assistant District Attorney Dawn Holt, Supervisor of our Economic and Cyber Crimes Unit, who will talk a little bit more about the investigations and the trends we are seeing in the towing industry. ADA Holtz.
Thank you. I'd like to thank the DA. I'd like to thank the members of the Philadelphia Police Department, the members of the Philadelphia District Attorney's Insurance Fraud Unit, and everyone here today. This was an 18-month investigation of the towing industry. I just wanted to let you know that how it started was we were getting calls from City Council, specifically City Councilwoman Sanchez's office. They were receiving a lot of complaints from citizens regarding the towing practices that they thought were unfair. We were getting lots of calls from insurance companies and citizens that felt like they weren't being treated fairly in the industry. A few years ago, the towing industry was charging probably about $400 a tow. It got to the point where they were now charging at least $1,200 a tow. It had been handled civilly before, but we decided, we had a meeting with License and Inspection and the police department, the city solicitor's office, that we wanted to be more proactive and see if there was a way we could really stop this behavior from happening. City Council had amended a city ordinance 9-605 that dealt with rotational tow. And just to give you a quick, I think the DA gave you basically a quick example of it, but it's a system so that we keep the towing fees down in the city. Any car, any person that's in an accident in the city of Philadelphia, the car should be under that ordinance. And that ordinance stated that a tow would be $175 and $25 a day for storage fees. Well, the industry got greedy. They didn't think this was enough, so they tried to find a way to get around the rotational tow system. Let me just explain one thing. Hooked Inc. is not a repair yard, okay? It is a yard where cars are towed and placed on a lot. So these charges that the DA explained of $2,000, they're not doing anything to the car. They're not fixing it. They're not repairing it. They're not doing anything to it but bringing it onto the lot. And these cars that we're speaking about are cars that are considered totaled vehicles. They are vehicles that an insurance appraiser would look at and say, this car is not worth enough. It's going to cost too much. These cars are so valuable to the industry because they get to sell them back to the insurance company. The insurance company is under law has to retrieve the vehicle. So they're kind of stuck, and they have them red-handed. So they can decide that they were going to charge whatever they wanted to do. But the rotational tow system, a police officer, a person calls 911, a police officer responds, and a car is dispatched from their list. What the chasers do is they stay by areas closer, like to the Roosevelt Boulevard, or to areas where there's a lot of accidents, such as City Line Avenue, and they wait, and they have big scanners in their car, police scanners for EMT, fire rescue, which you are allowed to have, but you're not allowed to use in these circumstances. And they basically sit there and wait to hear of an accident. Then they rush to the scene, and for them, they need to get there fast, because they need to get there before the police get there. Because if the police get there first, the police will call for the rotational tow, and they will not get that tow. So their job is to stand there and rush to the scene before the police get there. Now they're seeing a vulnerable victim who just minutes ago experienced an accident. They may be hurt, they may have children in the back seat, they may not even know where they are. And they're coming right up on them, telling them, we have to tow your car and you have to sign this. The other thing is, they do not give the person a choice of where you want your car towed to. So you may say to them, okay, tow it to my shop, and they will tell you, no, we have to tow it elsewhere. And that is not how rotational tow is supposed to work. It is not consensual if you're in a vulnerable position and you're forced with something put under your face and you have to sign it. Solicitation of a tow is totally prohibited under the ordinance. They are not allowed to approach anyone. A consensual tow is a tow as if you would call your own AAA to come, or you actually know someone who has a repair facility and you ask them to tow your car. Being the first on the scene is not consensual. And what we call wreck chasers, these tow people, what they do is they go around to all the tow yards and they find out who is paying out the most money that week. So they have a bunch of tow slips in their cars with different tow yards. And whoever's paying the most that week, that's who they tow the car to. And you have no choice if you're the victim of this. And if the yard is paying $1,000 a week per car, they tow it to that place, and they come at the end of the week and they collect $1,000 for every car that they've towed there that week. So what happens there? Now the lot owners have to make money. So now they double the price because they've already paid $1,000 to get this car. So now they have to come up with a bill so that they make a profit. And what they do is they tell the chasers, don't fill out any charges on this tow bill. Okay, you're supposed to list all the charges. If you did cleanup, whatever you did. Hazardous materials, they leave it blank and they say bill to insurance. So when it gets to the lot and they later look at it, the lot owner, they just make up charges in order to make a profit. They're making millions of dollars doing this, and most of it is a cash business. We've gotten calls and we've gotten letters from insurance companies about how much money they've been paying out. One company paid out $3 million to one lot in 2 years. But since our detectives, specifically Detective DeFrancesco and Detective Logan, who I can't thank enough for their efforts here, since they've been going out and confronting these people, trying to get them to lower it, that company that put out $3 million, it recently only put out $1.9 million. So we've already saved them $1 million, and we're hoping that this trickles down to our citizens who are paying such high costs to live in this city and so high costs for car insurance. They also charge for every day the car sits on the lot. So another deceptive practice that they do is they don't answer their phone. So you finally find out where your car is and you're calling to make arrangements for someone to come get it, and they don't answer the phone because each day they charge whatever they want, from $25 to $100 a day in storage fees. And that's another reason why the insurance companies have to get the car as soon as possible. Every day they don't, they're racking up the fees. And I wanted to tell you that the other thing is that, you know, we want to make the streets safer. And there have been instances in the past where these people are in such a rush to get to the accident scene that they're causing accidents. Even to the extent of there was a person murdered a few years ago, killed by a wreck chaser on their way to the scene to get there fast enough. So we want to help the citizens financially. We want to help their safety. And we've taken a lot of steps. We're training our police officers better. There's also the city has come up because of this problem with a new system for rotational tow called auto return. And it's a privately contracted company who's going to be handling the rotational tows. And they've done it in a better way to have the tow people that are vetted on the list be in the area where their building is, so that you're responding much quicker. Instead of a lot or a tow person in Northeast Philadelphia having to go to Southwest Philadelphia in 30 minutes, by that time everybody's on the scene. So they've tried to vet the list better, and they're trying to make it more regional so that people can respond and get there on the scene before the tow people get there. A couple of other things that came as a result is some of these people are very dangerous people, and one of our detectives, actually there was a contract actually put out on his life because of all the actions that he was doing. A group of the tow people got together and they were trying they offered money to have him killed. So it's a very serious business we're here. And just to give you a couple examples that were not written by the DA, we had a case where it's not these specific towers involved, but a young college girl gets in an accident on City Line Avenue coming out of a Starbucks. She's turned around, she's spun around, she's nervous. Tow person solicits her, says, I have to tow your car. She wants to wait for her parents. The car's towed off the street. Her parents come. Her father says, are you the required tow person to tow this? They tell him yes. He says, can you tow it to my shop? They say no. And he signed it because he didn't have any other choice of what to do. 3 hours later, that tow was $1,120. He called to find out where he could get 3 hours later. The owner would not tell him what the price was. said, I'm too busy, and send your tow person over to get it, and I'll give them the bill. Well, this person was so incensed. Most people don't know. When he found out how much it was, he actually reported it to police. So they're being deceptive in how they tell you that they are working for somebody. They're also being deceptive in what they're charging, and they're charging for services that they haven't rendered. They're not even at the scene, these lot owners, so they don't know what was done, and it's not written anywhere. They just make it up. I'd also like to just point out to the citizens that a couple tips if you're in an accident. Please call 911. They will call the tow for you, and this new system will tow it where you want it to go. I would also suggest that you photograph all the vehicles. Make sure that you photograph any identification, registration from the other drivers, just to make it easier on yourself. Don't allow yourself to be solicited by these chasers. They're going to tell you, don't worry, you don't have to pay for it. It's your insurance. We just on the last, make sure you get a police report. Lastly, this investigation is not over. We are continuing investigating other entities that are doing this, and we would like the public's help, and we're just thankful for everyone being here, and I thank you.
I'd just like to reiterate, sometimes when the public becomes aware of an issue of this type, they have experienced the same type of theft, or they know someone who has. We would like to hear about it if it's happened in the past. We would like to hear about it if it happens tomorrow, because we take very seriously our obligation to stop this kind of behavior. Are there any questions for anyone up here? Yes, Julie.
I would say I'm not at liberty to say that at this point in time. That grand jury is concluded, though, but we are investigating. I can say we are investigating other tow chasers and tow companies. Millions would probably be hooked over a couple of years. I mean, if you looked at what they're making over a couple of years, you will definitely get to $1 million. But we're talking about the industry and other tow yards in the city. We're talking millions of dollars. Well, I can't say totally because we don't know, but in this specific charges here, I believe these 4 charges here, I think were about 10 to 12,000 just for these 4. But there are many more. Most of these tows were somewhere between 1,200 and I think 2,500.
So when somebody gets into an accident and a tow truck driver shows up before the police do, you're telling these drivers they don't have to sign anything, they don't have to do anything until the police come.
That's correct. That is correct.
So all the scans were happening before the cops got there, specifically so that the rotation was supposed to be there?
Well, I believe in all of these 4 situations they were, but we've had other cases where there had been cases where the police officers have kind of let it happen because they want to clear the scene. Because sometimes what happens is if you're waiting, traffic's now crazy, depending on some of these big highways like the Roosevelt Boulevard. It really, when there's a crash, it really does impact a lot of people. So sometimes it was easier for the police officers to just, whoever's there first, so they could clear the scene. But they've been trained otherwise now. But there have been in the past situations where the police officer has kind of allowed it to happen because they wanted to get back, to their job, or they wanted to clear the scene for whatever reason. So, but they have been trained, and the training is ongoing. We're trying to get out to every single police district and police, shift. And there has been, and actually in writing has also been provided to them so that they know what the rules are. You know, it's easy to make rules and sometimes it doesn't feel practical in the situation. So that's why I say it's not absolute. So there have been times where the police have allowed it to happen, but it shouldn't happen. Just these 4 examples. They happened between, I believe, 2017 and 2018. I'm saying, no, I'm not even sure now. The investigation started with incidents that happened in 2016 to the present. Yeah.
Are more tow companies could be charged in this?
Yes, not out of this grand jury, but yes, definitely.
Also, lot companies?
Yes. Yeah, see, it's weird how they do it. They do. They're like, a lot of the lots don't have any tow trucks at all. They just use direct chasers and pay them. There are some that have tow, and they use direct chasers. They use their tow for their repairable vehicles, and they use the chasers for the wrecks that come in. So, yeah. So, but a lot of times, a lot of the tow, like Hooked Inc., they do not repair cars. It's just a lot.
So the tow should have been $175, and they were charging $1,000 or more.
Yeah.
2 quick follow-up questions. Did Lock Inc., they're complaining negligence, that they didn't know, or they're just completely stepping up the ordinance, like they knew, or do they need to know that in order to have the business?
Well, they know it. What they're trying to say is they're trying to say that it was a consensual tow. They're trying to say they're allowed to go up, and if I ask you, can I tow your car, and you say yes, that's consensual. That's what they're going with. Doesn't matter what situation you're in, what trauma you're in. They're not even supposed to solicit, but that is how they're justifying it, is that it's consensual. If I ask you and you sign, it's consensual.
And a quick follow-up, a lot of the news organizations see these accidents where around the big ones. What is the threshold for when a tow should be there or the police should be called? And we've heard that there's times where if it's not a major accident, you do your own paperwork and try to go to the district and get a police report.
Yes, that's what normally happens, and they don't want those cars anyway. So it really doesn't become a problem, because they really want the totals. They might drive right by you. I mean, we had one witness that testified that if you didn't have full coverage and it wasn't a total, they weren't towing you. We've also had them say, I went to the hospital and waited in the emergency room till I could see the victim so I could get them to sign my tow slip. So it's like, it's the gamut of what they do. But they are looking for specific cars. So if you're in a minor accident, they're probably going to drive right by you.
It seems like the insurance companies are inherently, this is built in to protect them. I thought you mentioned before where you have detectives or police officers telling them to lower their prices. Is that built in, or is it just the insurance companies are being protected and the consumers kind of on their own here regarding the price of the tow?
Well, the way if you have full coverage, the consumer's not actually paying that money. It comes out of your insurance money, but then your insurance rates go up. So, but there are people that don't have comprehensive coverage, and they are towed, and maybe the tower thinks they have comprehensive coverage. They tow that vehicle, then they find out you don't have towing, you don't have full coverage, and now they still want to charge you, and now that's going to come out of your pocket. We've had some of those situations too.
Are those some of the victims here? Any of the victims here paid?
No, none of these victims had to pay out of their own pocket, no.
So is there just one price for, say, someone who doesn't have comprehensive, is that just one price for them to be towed?
Well, they won't tow you.
Oh, they won't? Okay.
Not the chasers. I mean, you might be able to get someone to tow your car to your house, but the chasers, for the most part, are not going to respond to those. They will find out first your information, and if it doesn't fit their qualifications, they're moving on.
Can you talk about why a total car is more valuable?
Well, because the insurance companies have to get the car out. And what happens to that car is the insurance company, they pay another service and big one is called Copart, and the other is IAA. And they actually are the people that go to Hooked with the cash to get the car, and then they take the car and they sell it for parts. So they buy the car. So now the insurance company gets a little bit of money back, but you're not going to be able to drive the car, and they get a little bit of money back, and then they sell it. So it's like a continuing situation. So the repairable cars, they don't make that much. The cars that are repairable, they'll go take it to a shop, and they might get 10% of what it is. But they're basically holding these things for ransom. It's just like they know that the insurance companies have to get the car, or the rental car companies, and they are using that in order to make the profits that they're making.
One of the defense attorneys, Patricia or Ms. Royale, had said that he contended that this investigation was driven by the insurance companies in order to, increase their profit. Do you want to react to that?
No, I think the insurance fraud unit is based on a statute that was done years ago, and we're just trying to help prevent fraud across the board. We are dealing with insurance companies, but on the other hand, that's the only way that we can help the consumers. Otherwise, I don't see any way. We don't do what the insurance companies tell us to do, and some of the insurance companies aren't even interested in this. We have some that they just pay it. They're not interested. We don't listen. We don't follow what they say. But we see a real need to bring insurance prices down in the city, and we're getting complaints from all kinds of people, and we figured we need to do something about it. We don't get anything from them.
You mentioned that the process has now changed. Did it change because of this investigation, or did it already change?
No, it was as a result of this investigation. Yeah.
I just want to clarify one point. Was this scheme also used against people who did not have insurance coverage?
Yes.
And how did that go?
Well, that's the situation that we had a couple situations that we had a gentleman whose daughter was in an accident. The car was towed to, wasn't hooked, it was another one. And when they got to go pick up the car, they told them it was like $1,500. She did not have full coverage, and the insurance company said, well, if we have to pay this tow bill, you're only getting $400 for this car. Now this young girl doesn't have a car, can't afford to buy another car, and they're the people that are really the most vulnerable, the people that need a car to get to work, right? They need to pick up their kids from school, and they don't have insurance, they don't have the right insurance, or their car is, even if they have insurance, their car is devalued so much by the towing fees that they're not going to make any money off the car. They're not going to be able to buy another car. So it impacts people in different ways. Even if you have insurance, it's still impacting you because you're not getting the full value of your car because they have to take all those fees out. And you're stuck with $500, and what kind of car can you buy for that?
These other examples, like the one you just mentioned, and then the woman on I-76, a college student, and someone put a contract out on him, and these all involve tow companies not hooked, right? These were all not.
Yes.
So are these cases that we eventually might be seeing charges against other companies later on? Is that what?
I would stay tuned.
To follow up on her, there are 3 charges pending on the situation where money was put down on a detective. Is there charges pending for that case?
They were disposed of in a way. That person was on federal supervised supervision, and we brought that case to the court's attention, and he received another sentence for that based on the fact that he was on federal parole.
You know how auto return differs from what was happening?
Well, they're just, they keep a monitor. I'm not an expert on that, and there's other people that could tell you about it, but basically, this is their sole thing that they do. The police department and L&I had so many other things on their plate that things weren't, this is a much more efficient system. There's a computerized system. It goes directly to, they get a direct text as soon as it comes in. It's supposed to speed up the process so that we can eliminate the chasers getting there first.
So it's not from the hands of the police department into this subcontractor?
Yes. Thank you.
Question, I'm sorry. For other people.
Sure. So my understanding is that there was a much smaller version of the same thing that occurred in Texas. However, to the best of our knowledge, it is the first in Philadelphia, the first in Pennsylvania, and the largest that has occurred in the United States. In fact, it is so significant that a lot of the people involved in the investigation and in the charging process are going to be consulting with other law enforcement agencies around the country and also presenting at conferences on this topic. I think it's an absolutely great example of just one of many ways that the Philadelphia Police Department and the DA's office in Philadelphia are able to be a model to other prosecutorial and law enforcement agencies around the country in different ways, and I could not be more excited and proud of what was done jointly by the police department and by the DA's office in this regard. Any other questions?
Sorry, I know like previously, U.S. Attorney's Office had filed charges against the police dispatcher and tow truck operators when there was, when they were eluding the rotation, when they were going to and charging, the dispatcher was giving the tow truck operators information on where accidents happened. So and they were charged bribery related charges and so forth. So how is this, what's the purpose of here?
Okay, well, I think what you're probably referring to, and I try to make a point about not commenting too much on what our U.S. Attorney is doing, but I think what you're probably referencing is just a traditional corruption graft scandal involving the use, city officials and unfortunately a few police officials who are engaging in, frankly, age-old schemes to get money that's not rightfully theirs. What's going on here is not a situation in which there are any accusations having to do with police or other law enforcement officials. This is private activity. Are there any other questions? All right. Thank you very much. Well done. Nice job. Nice job.